Welcome back to Never Famous, where we're following up on a story from last week where a Philly police officer charges has been dropped. Please hit the like, comment, and subscribe.
This is what she ain't even think.
Shock, frustration, and disbelief outside the Criminal Justice Center, moments after a judge dismissed charges against former Philadelphia police officer Mark Dial for the shooting death of Eddie Irizarry.
It hit everyone hard because there goes to show that an officer can kill someone in Philadelphia and get away with murder.
The judge today citing lack of evidence for the murder charges, saying this was a justifiable shooting. This after the prosecution and defense spent the morning questioning Dial's partner, Michael Morris, who responded to the traffic stop turned shooting that cost Irizarry his life.
For the judge to say lack of evidence was wrong because the proof, we showed her it was a murder. That officer used daily force, the windows was up, the doors was locked.
Part of the evidence presented today, this picture of the knife found in Irizarry's car, which the defense claimed Dial mistook as a gun because of the handle. Also, this doorbell video, along with audio of the seconds before shots were fired. The defense saying you can hear Morris shouting both knife and gun right before Dial fired.
Hearing gun, seeing gun, he fired. Like I said, it's heartbreaking. It's a tragedy. My client did everything he could to get him to the hospital to save his life. It's a tragedy, but not a crime.
Dial, who spent a week in jail, now set to be released to family. The Philadelphia District Attorney's Office already refiled murder charges against Dial.
That's the judge's decision. Again, we do not agree with this decision.
Irizarry's family also vowing to continue their fight for justice for Eddie.
We're going to appeal and we're going to keep fighting because he needs to be behind bars. He committed a crime and he needs to pay for it.
I know that's right.
I will say one thing. In the initial videos that we watched, they didn't show that knife, and I can understand when seeing the handle at like a quick glance of why that may be confusable with a gun or whatever. Just looking at the handle real quick with a knife, but I don't know. I'm still rocking it. I don't think it was justified.
I'm not gonna lie. I think in the clip it looked like he was trying to put his hands up. I didn't get to see it too well because everything was too fast, but.
Well, and you wasn't able to see anything in the clip because everything happened within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I do think right now, because this is one of those things where in these circumstances, you never get this clear of evidence where you can see, this is something, there wasn't even a chance. They didn't announce nothing. It was just, they just went and kind of shot. And what the defense used, which I'm not going to blame the lawyer for the defense. Hey, I'm going to try to find the best strategy possible to try to get my client off. I get it. But this is one of those circumstances where I think cops should have a higher standard than a regular citizen for the way they should behave themselves under pressure situations. And in this instance, you can clearly see they were not able to handle that pressure in an effective way. And this is the type of stuff that creates even more animosity towards the police. Because it's like, this is one of those circumstances where I might have gotten it if I would have been if it would have been the prosecutor and maybe it's not murder one or something like that, but it maybe gets demoted to manslaughter or something. But I do think there needs to be some level of accountability as opposed to just saying any charges and on all charges are dropped.
Very true.
Yeah. And I mean, right there in the title they put Philly officer or whatever. So I don't know if he's still in office. I think they did fire him. So I mean that says something. I don't know. I don't think he should be hired back at all. I don't think he should be on the police force at all. I'm not 100% sure exactly what his status is on the Philly.
Well, I feel like the footage shows that he shouldn't be a police officer.
Well, the argument they made, which I can kind of see it.
It's like you say, he didn't really handle that.
Well, that wasn't the argument. The argument was that his partner yelled gun, and because his partner yelled gun, and he saw something that resembled a gun, so he fired.
And they never said where the knife was in the car. Can you go back to the maybe skim through a little bit? I think it was somewhere in the middle where they're in the car part. Yeah. Can you replay that car part? You could just play from there.
Because of the handle. Also, this doorbell video, along with audio of the second
now they added audio.
Shots were fired. The defense saying you can hear Morris shouting both knife and gun. The defense saying you can mistook as a gun because of the handle. Also, this doorbell video, along with audio of the seconds before shots were fired. The defense saying you can hear Morris shouting
Yeah, you can hear like somebody yelled at, like one of the two yelled at, sort of. Like I feel like this is just a sad situation all around, and it kind of makes people even lose more faith in the justice system. Because I feel like this is one of those things where I'm like, there needs to be a certain level of accountability. I may agree and be like, okay, if I go with a maybe there was an unreasonable, like it wasn't necessarily murder per se, but maybe this falls under manslaughter or something like that. Like there was some type of negligence in the cop side, whether it was the guy who pulled the trigger on the guy that called gun and there wasn't a gun. There was something there for somebody who's supposed to be trained and somebody who is actually should be held to a higher standard to be held accountable to some sort. So I do hope that the family does continue to push for it. I feel like this is one of those instances where to me protesting makes sense to try to bring attention to it. And I will freaking sue them. Like I'm suing the police department. I'll sue each of the individual cops involved.
Because they could win a civil suit.
They get civil, but I still get it. Like from a family perspective, I don't know if you feel like that would be justice.
No, I'm not saying it's justice, but I'm just saying they could win a civil suit just because if I remember when we initially covered the story, the officer who did get fired, if I remember correctly, from by
he was put on leave immediately, kind of like thing, like for the internal investigation, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like it seemed like from the way that the DA was talking about it was like they're trying to charge him, and like it seemed like he really did, like they thought that he committed the crime, so they could probably get a civil suit.
And the other part,
I'm sorry to cut you off, but even him going to jail doesn't probably is not going to give the family that
may give them
anything.
It may give them a sense of justice. That's the only thing, and I think the part that makes it more frustrating, if I was in their shoes, and I'm trying to put myself in their shoes, is the fact that a judge made the decision. This wasn't something that it actually went to trial, and in trial, a jury of your peers decided he's not guilty. This didn't even make it to trial. It wasn't like jury went and they deliberated and they were able to say, you know what, there's enough evidence to say that it might have been at fault or not at fault. This was something that those in positions of power, in this case being the judge, was the one who made the decision to say this is not enough, so all the charges are being dropped. It wasn't even presented like for. It wasn't even. He didn't even go to trial. He didn't really like. I don't even feel like that aspect of it was fulfilled. So I think if it would have went to trial and the jury comes back and says not guilty, I think that would probably, while it still probably sucks, it may be easier to digest in a way. I don't know if you'll accept it, but it'll be easier to digest it in a way. But I think this is one of those instances that I think it just makes police and people in positions of authority in this way will make people even lose more. I don't even know what to call it. Probably more hope in the fact that they can potentially move towards good.
I think they need to just train these police officers more, or have better training programs. I feel like,
because I say he might have been trained, and I can say, hey, he's human. There could have been the fact that, hey, he heard gun, he saw something that looked like a gun.
Right.
I get it. That could have been a mistake, but I think even if it is a mistake, you should be held accountable for that sort of mistake that takes someone's life in such a way. It wasn't like a thing of like, because it'll be the same way if you're driving and you have an accident and you could potentially be charged and be held accountable for having an accident and hurting someone or taking someone's life in an accident, even though it was an accident. You know what I mean? It may not be categorized as murder, but it may be categorized as some type of negligence of some sort. And I don't think they even gave the family to prove the fact that there might have been negligence in this situation. So I think it's just one of those things. It's like, this is what makes people lose more and more faith in the system and so on.
Yeah. The only thing I think is just tough that it's hard. Like, how do you train for like such a like high pressure situations like that? Like, cause I agree with y'all. They have to be like cops need to be trained better, but I think it's tough. Like, especially with cops getting shot throughout the country and in Philly, that it makes it just.
What do you mean? Like, we have examples of like most of our military trains in high pressure situations like this, so they don't react in such a way. So that means there are types of training that can potentially have an element of benefit for cops to go through. Maybe they don't have to go to the same extent as a freaking Navy SEAL. Like, I'm not saying that. But the thing about many of these police officers is they go through the academy, they train there, and that's about it. That's all the training they do, as opposed to having a certain requirement of training that you have to go through on a monthly basis or at a minimum at a quarterly basis, where you go through some type of intensive situations where they give you like mock situations that you do it just to get a sense of what it feels like to have that rush of adrenaline going through, because you react differently once adrenaline hits. It's a thing.
Yeah.
I know that. Like, you will react differently. But if you don't experience that often enough to recognize it, then you will just react based on that adrenaline rush. You don't know how to control it. You don't even know that you don't even recognize the fact that it's happening until after it happens.
I want to say, the lady mentioned that like the windows were closed, like they were up and the doors were locked. So like, do you feel like that not justifies, but do you think that because of that they should have felt less pressure?
Not necessarily, because if he assumed that he had a weapon and it was a gun, it doesn't matter whether the windows was up or down. Like, bullets will make it through a window. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, I peeped that second.
Yeah, like no, like we knew this from the beginning. Like, even in the video, you can see that the window, he never even made it really to the window before he started firing.
Right.
So like, it's one of those things that since it happened, it was fairly known that, hey, you never even had an interaction with the individual. And then the fact that there were like different stories from the get-go, like they gave one story and then somebody's doorbell camera exposed that they were lying in that story. That kind of tells me, hey, you might have been lying. And like, for that reason, like, you should go through like trial and like, why were you lying? Why do you say, why are you answering things differently? Why are you saying it one way where now the video says it's something different? It's kind of like one of those things. And I'm like, if the cop would have came from the beginning and be like, hey, he yelled gun from the get-go, I thought he had a gun, but that wasn't the story. Like, he kind of said that the guy lunged at him. The guy never even came out of the car. The door was locked. So you know what I mean? So that puts you in a place where I'm like, you were trying to cover up because you knew that at the end of the day, there might have been some wrong things that happened in that interaction.
Well, you knew that you kind of messed up.
Yeah. I'm not saying that it was intentional, but you knew you fucked up. It was like, hey, like, these are some things that I know, whether I trained for this or didn't train for this, this is not how it should have went. And your gut reaction was to say, he lunged at me. Because you know, if he lunged at you, that will provide you even more cover or justification in some way
as to why you shot and whatnot.
Yeah, correct.
This is not a him thing. Just putting this on me whenever I've been pulled over or if anything type of shit like that happens. What I try to do is I try to turn all what's daytime, but if it's nighttime or whatever, I'll turn all the lights on and put all my windows down, unlock the car, or whatever. Like, you want to search some shit, whatever. I don't got nothing to hide. So you know what I'm saying? Like, at least not like in my car or whatever. So I just. I would hope that wouldn't happen.
Oh, I'm not letting you search, but okay.
No, but I'm saying I wouldn't be like somebody like a cop. I got pulled over and he was like, "Oh, do you mind if I search your trunk and shit?" I'm like, "No, go ahead, you can search it." And he didn't actually search it. He wanted to see what I was gonna say or whatever. Like, he checked me or type of shit. I don't give a fuck. I don't got nothing to hide. I was wrong. I had took a red light and shit. I ain't gonna lie. So you know, that's, but then he didn't even give me the ticket for it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I treated him with I try to treat police officers with the utmost respect and nice. Some of them are cold assholes. I ain't gonna lie, but some of them are assholes. But I just try to avoid situations where, because I know that's my heart beats a little faster when I see a cop. So sometimes I can imagine that when they walk up to a car, their heart might beat a little faster. When they
that's what I mean, so and I understand that.
We both feel safe.
Well, I'm telling you, your heart should race, and I shouldn't expect you to know what to do per se in that situation. And it seems like you know what to do with it. But he's pulling people over every day. You should be able to have an idea of an understanding of how to manage those emotions and those reactions to an extent. And that's part of the training that I'm like, as a police officer, you should be held accountable to that. Not a normal citizen. Now, in this instance, I'm not saying that the guy in the car did everything wrong or everything right.
Yeah. Because we weren't talking about
you didn't even make it to have an interaction.
Yeah.
And even in theory, let's say that he had a knife. I don't know if he had it in his hand, so that creates a whole different dilemma. But never went to court, so you couldn't even argue it. But in theory, having a knife is not illegal. Having a gun in Philly is not illegal. He didn't even know if he was carrying legally or illegally or something like that to begin with. You get what I mean? So I think there's that element that there's aspects of it that I feel like that's the reason why I think I wish this had gone to court, and like if the jury comes up and be like, no, he was justified and it's proved in that way, I think it'll be easier in some way to swallow it and digest it. But I think as it went, where it's like the system just doing it, it didn't even go through like you went through like a jury of your peers going through it. It kind of puts a bitter taste in your mouth when you kind of like, I'm like, there we go, they're covering up for him, kind of a situation. That's what it feels like.
That's why I said they never said where the knife is, and that where the knife was in the car. Like,
Right.
did he have it in his hand? Like what? That was really my thing. So I agree with you. As you guys can see, we all think this is some bullshit. I just try to ask a couple different questions just to, like, you know what I mean. But I think this is some bullshit.
Big time.
I definitely feel like they need the support and the attention to this story. Like they need to, you know what I'm saying? This needs to be something a little bigger, and I think it should go to trial and see what happens. See, it might not get convicted, but it should at least go to trial. Let us know how you guys feel in the comments. Please hit the like, comment, and subscribe. This is Never Famous.